Macro this, macro that. New overpowered macro. Insane new auto farm macro. How to macro. Do any of these words or phrases sound familiar? Well, if you've been around the channel, I myself have contributed to some of these, and in fact, we've talked about macroing extensively on this channel, but I needed a video for today, and I was in the shower and I started thinking to myself, how come every single anime tower defense game has macroing as a commonplace practice? I started thinking about it, and it really only applies to anime tower defense games, albeit there are some outliers like SpongeBob Tower Defense, I guess, but with how insanely monetized and pay to win that game is, we could honestly just scooch it in there with the other anime tower defense games. And if you think about it, SpongeBob is an animated series, so it's not too much of a stretch to lump them in with the ATD crowd, but I digress. What I'm trying to say is, most games on Roblox, and most games in general, heavily discourage macroing. The developers don't like it. Macroing ruins the balance and overall environment of the game because it just provides an outright unfair advantage to players. Yet, it's so common in anime tower defense games, it's seen as the norm, when frankly it never should be. And why is that? And I compare it to other tower defense games on Roblox just so I don't think I'm crazy. If you search up macro for something like Tower Defense Simulator, one of the oldest TD games on Roblox, you'll be hard pressed to find anything, because that game just doesn't require macroing. And if we want to embroad this into a larger context, look at something like BTD6, a game which Anime Vanguards has taken a lot of inspiration from, yet you don't see BTD6 requiring any sort of macro. You see no macro videos for Bloons Tower Defense. There's never been one to begin with. So why is it that anime tower defense games specifically suffer from the plague that is macroing? Well, if you read the title of the video, I don't think the fault lies within the players themselves. It lies within the game design. The current landscape of anime tower defense games, frankly, require you to macro whether you like it or not. Humans are always going to choose the path of least resistance. And what is the path of least resistance for ATD games? You farm things automatically. The rates for these types of games and the grinding that you need to do for evolutions is frankly not that fun. Let's look at a game like Anime Vanguards. Do you really want to sit there and grind out legend stages so you can get enough green essences to evolve a singular unit? Sure, it's not going to take you an insane amount of time, maybe a couple hours of grinding, but those are a couple hours of your life you could have gotten back if you just set up the old tiny task. Or if you look at Anime Adventures, do you really want to sit there and grind out star fruits for hours and on end just so you can evolve a singular unit? And with them, it's time gated. You can only farm the challenge once per hour. But I know for me personally, it doesn't stop me from playing. I'll just be farming something else while I'm waiting for the hour cooldown to go away. Or let's look at Anime Reborn. Do you really want to sit there and farm the challenges every single time so you can evolve a unit? Now, maybe this example that I'm using for macros isn't the best, because you can't really macro challenges, or you can't macro evo materials in most cases besides Anime Vanguards and maybe ALS. So let's use a topic that we're all very, very familiar with: gems. Gems are in every single anime tower defense game. The currency might be called something different, but the broad term that we're going to use is gems. These are the lifelines of the game. This is what you use to summon. This is one of the core gameplay mechanics that every single one of these games have. And I promise you, any game that you can think of, at least in the ATD genre, you will not find a game where you can't macro gems. Every single anime tower defense game has some sort of gem macro out there. In fact, YouTube is full of tower defense videos that involve macroing, and you gotta start wondering why. What is the common denominator between all of these games that makes it feel like it's such a requirement to macro? I would hate to be a mobile player playing 2025 anime tower defense games, because you are going to be progressing at a snail's pace compared to your fellow peers that have a PC that can automatically run a stage infinitely overnight and just get an insane amount of resources while they sleep. I think the fault lies within the game design. Fundamentally, anime tower defense games are made for profit. I don't think anyone was too surprised about that. You know, this isn't really the cat's out of the bag moment, or when they unmasked the villain in Scooby-Doo and they found out that it was some incredibly unexpected character. No, no, no. We've known that these games were money printers because, hell, they're extremely monetizable. They're extremely popular because anime appeals to a broad genre of people, or a broad range of people. So, obviously, they're going to be used to make money. But when you have money in mind, when monetization is the main incentive behind a game, and I'm not saying that's the case for every single game, but most of the time, when you're thinking about money, you want a couple things. First, you want people to buy your game passes. You want player retention. You want more people to be on the game as long as possible. So when you're an anime tower defense game, the only way that you can do this is by making your gameplay formula time-consuming. And time consumption is the name of the game for every single one of these games. ALS, Anime Reborn, Anime Adventures, Anime Vanguards. All of these games share a common denominator. They are trying to keep you on their game as long as possible. And this is no new Renaissance way of thinking. This has been the method on Roblox for years. You know, since the dawn of time, that's been the case. You can look at any front page game, and player retention is one of their main concerns. But how do they do that on ATD games? They make evolutions take a decent chunk of time to get. They make summoning for really, really good units have astronomically low odds to keep you playing longer. They make the secret units have low odds to keep you playing longer. All of these things culminate in order to have the highest player retention they can possibly get out of a single person. And with all of this in the mix, oh my god, if you're watching that gameplay and you just saw me get that double kill with the rocket launcher, oh my god. Bro, my nipples got hard when I did that. I was just going crazy. This background footage, I'm proud of this background footage. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. What I'm trying to say is, anime tower defense games have a macroing problem because the games are designed to have it. In no universe do I ever see an anime tower defense game making unit evolutions take 30 minutes or maybe an hour to get. Or maybe you can spend a good couple of hours grinding a secret and you'll be guaranteed to get it. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And people love to complain about macroing on any tower defense game. I think the biggest complaint or issue would be in Anime Adventures, since they have a lot of bot accounts. They have a lot of people running the Faxi macro in order to farm the event. I don't think leeching is as much of a problem anymore. That's sort of been squished out or snuffed out by captchas and people just constantly shaming leechers, as they should. You know, leeching is really scummy. Getting off topic though. I'd say Anime Adventures has the biggest quote-unquote macro problem, but not because the game in and of itself is deserving of it. It's just because it's the biggest anime tower defense game. So obviously you're going to get people botting it to try to BM, or just botting it to trade, botting it to do whatever, and you're going to get people macroing because if it's the most popular game, you're going to attract the biggest range of people. And that includes macros. That includes me, who will be macroing gems instead of farming them myself, because what do I look like spending 8 hours of my life to hit Mythic Pity when I could just go to sleep and get a bunch of gems overnight? So, in order to bring this video to a close, what is my central message? What am I trying to get across with this entire little rant of mine? I honestly don't know. But it just popped into my head. Every single anime tower defense game is a macro sim. If you really, really look at the end game of tower defense games, you're not going to progress or be an endgame player or a competitive player or just even remotely have fun if you don't macro. And that is just the reality of the situation. I think that's a universal truth for all anime tower defense games on Roblox. The only one where I think they solve this, or at least they circumvent this issue pretty well, is Anime World Tower Defense. Those guys do an extremely good job of respecting your time and making the grind for rewards and unit evolutions not extremely grindy. I could be wrong on that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, that game has resource modes where you can farm millions of coins in a single run if you know what you're doing, and just like that, in maybe the span of 10 minutes, you can max out a unit. Maxing out a unit on any other tower defense game would take hours of macroing, and you can do it in a couple minutes on Anime World Tower Defense. Or it also has resource modes for not just gold, it also has it for puzzle pieces, I think, and it has it for other things that you're going to need later on. And they make it really, really plentiful. But then, you know, you start seeing issue number 1 that we talked about, player retention. Why do you think Anime World Tower Defense has as low of a player count as it does? It's not because the game is bad or boring, it's just that people can get things so easily that they just don't feel like playing. The game respects your time. As a result, there's not much of a reason to grind it or macro it, because you can get most of all the stuff that you want within a couple days of hardcore grinding. So their gameplay formula doesn't really favor them too much. If I really had to say, like, the biggest downfall for Anime World Tower Defense, it's not that they're a bad game. Hell, they are an amazing game, but, you know, they're just not built for the Roblox, money farm, Anime Tower Defense lifestyle. They more so do their own thing with a really good cast of characters too. I'll always have a lot of respect for that game. Even though I haven't played it as extensively as I've wanted to just because I don't have the time, that is just a game that stands in its own league. But now I think we're done for sure. This video went on for way longer than I wanted it to, so sorry about the little ramble on the side, but let me know in the comments what you think about macroing. Do you think it's a problem? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? What would you do to fix it? With all that being said, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay tuned for more content, and we will catch you in the next one.